Did you ever guys hear about something called microchipping? I always wondered what professionals mean when they say those words. Well, I think I figured it out. I think it means when you have a small model and you must try to paint the chips very, very, very small. So small your eyes are gonna bleed. What's up guys, it's your sleepless night owl back with another chipping video. I'm gonna be honest, I only chipped a small scale model once, and well, I was pleasantly surprised how smoothly it went. Except the fact that it took me about a month to paint all the chips by hand, but that's not the point. What I learned was that if you can paint decent chips in 1/35th scale, you can do it in 1/72nd scale, you just have basically no margin for error. So let's start with the light chips first. This time I'm gonna use ammo paints, because I found out they have excellent consistency for brush chipping. They will dry very fast, so as always I'm gonna add acrylic retarder from AK. Unfortunately I don't have any olive drop paint from them, so I had to mix something resembling very light OD. I will once again demonstrate this technique mostly on the side of the hull, because it's like the most interesting part of the tank. My process is always the same. I first outline the edges and then work my way towards the center of each panel with small randomly shaped flakes. There are things that make this step easy and difficult at the same time. The difficult part is that you have to be as creative as possible because the model is just a blank canvas at this stage. Luckily, the more surface detail you have, the easier it is to figure out where you should paint all the chips. This model was an absolute breeze compared to that nightmarish ball tank I did before. The easy part of this process is that the light color of the chips can be easily toned down with upcoming weathering steps. So even if you make a small mistake, you can often leave it like that and fix it later. It's also very important to choose a correct color for this. It has to be a significantly lighter version of the base color. In the past I've seen a few modelers mix a vivid neon toxic green color for their Soviet tank and well, you can imagine the result. But we live in the future, because now there are brands like AK, Ammo or Life Color who make dedicated modulation sets for almost every camouflage color imaginable. If you get one of these, you can use them to paint your model and then just take the lightest paint from the set and use it for chipping. I've tried them all and they all work great for both airbrush and paintbrush application. Now for the darker steel chips. I will once again put my trust into Vallejo paints. This time I decided to add some dark brown into the mixture to give the paint a slight rusty tint, as I will not cover all the chips with rust in the next episode. I have to keep in mind this is supposed to be a freshly painted tank, not a rust bucket. So yeah, I don't know if you remember what I said in my previous chipping video, or if you're even seen it, but I said that steel chipping is very easy, because you're just filling in the lighter chips. And while yes, that's totally legit for larger scales, but it doesn't apply here. This step is gonna make your eyes hurt, your back will hate you, your hand will become numb, and you're gonna reconsider your life decisions. So much for inspiration, right? But seriously, this is truly not the easiest step, because it's so easy to make a tiny mistake and make that chip look like very bad. Fortunately, you can always correct the shape of your chipping with a toothpick. I demonstrated that in the previous chipping video and I will link that one in the description below. But besides all the red flags I'm giving you guys, this is definitely one of the most satisfying techniques. For me at least. Like I mentioned before, the way I paint chips is not very realistic, not realistic at all, and quite overdone. Extremely overdone. But I enjoy the process and the results. The model looks more detailed, there's more stuff happening on the surface, you can use it to outline and highlight details, even create contrast between different parts, and it also gives the model that metal touch. And that's why I do it, obviously. So yeah, this is just the way I do it. And I'm not saying it's the best way or the most correct way, but in my eyes it's the best way to make the model a lot more interesting to look at. And it's also worth mentioning how a lot of chips will get toned down or partially hidden under layers of dust and mud. That's why it takes many steps and techniques to achieve an interesting result. You might notice I didn't spend time painting chips where heavier layers of earth will be present, like for example under the track. But there are other parts which will most likely get covered in dust and mud, but I still chipped them. That's because you can't always plan how you're gonna weather every single last bit of your model. At least it never works for me. I can always see small details, but never the full picture. I don't know, I'm probably weird or something. Anyway, microchipping. Oh, and guess what? More paint fell off the tracks. Look. And now I realize that rotating shots are maybe not the greatest way to let you see all the chipping, or should I say microchipping, because we wanna sound professional, right? But seriously, they're small, so I will instead give you some static shots. You can pause the video if you want to observe them for longer, or you can just stop watching if you don't care. I know most of you have stopped watching around 5-minute mark, because I've seen my analytics. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't yet, because I have more videos like this coming your way. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you mates in the next one.